Power outages happen. Of course they do. It's a fact of life. But if one happens this winter, are you ready for that? It could be days, if not weeks, of not having power. We're seeing these natural disasters happen all the time. And if this happens during the winter, it literally could cost you your life. So we have to be prepared. In aid for that, I actually made this video, 9 things you want to prepare for a power outage during the winter, so you can be ready. Number 1, warm beverages. Warm beverages keep you warm. The more heat you put in, the more you're able to retain heat. So having warm beverages is good, and you can practically speaking take your pick. But you have to have water first. And people always say, and they have no idea what they're talking about, by the way, a gallon per person per day. We live that up here in Michigan. We go sometimes without power for a couple weeks. 1 gallon a day. I'm even going to say bare minimum. I'm going to say no, it's practically not even feasible. Probably 2 gallons per day. I always like to say if you have a 55-gallon drum, one of those per person per month will actually work out much better. But be able to actually heat up the water, make things with it like soup or hot beverages. Stay away from liquors though. They'll make you feel warm because it opens up the capillaries in your skin. You're like, it's so nice. But what it does is you're actually losing your body heat and you're feeling that on your skin. So make sure you have the water. Make sure you have warm water so you can try to keep warm during these rough times. Number 2, warm food. If you have one, a wood stove or fireplace works great for this. We have a Dutch oven we use for ours so we can at least warm up food. Even better, cook food. If you have a gas range, we have a propane range. Not all of them, but most of them will work if there's no power. You just have to manually light the range itself or the stove. Good stuff. Now, cooking other ways is more difficult. Your barbecue grill may be covered in snow. Any type of outdoor stuff may not work very well. So one of the things you may want to consider is getting like a little butane stove. These are fantastic and inexpensive. And I'll link some of these below, by the way, if you want to pick them up, just as a backup for just in case. And of course, you can pick up lots of different types of, or not different types, but lots of cans of butane to keep it going. Make sure, however, you get a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector. You want it battery-powered in case your power's out. But also it picks up carbon monoxide, which is basically released anytime there's any type of combustion. And if you have too much of that in your house, maybe you have a small space, obviously could be fatal. Not to mention a fire extinguisher, have that as well. Okay, best thing to have for warm food is simply put canned food. Last practically forever, practically speaking nutritious for you. But one of the best things you can do about it is pick up like those meals in a can, like maybe like soup or chili, corned beef hash deliciousness, or anything else that you enjoy that'd be easy to prepare instead of actually doing things from scratch. Because if you're out of power for a few days, a week or two, taking the time to actually make a warm meal is kind of a pain, with just lights and everything. It's kind of irritating. So having things in the can works very easily. So in other words, you could just kind of heat it and eat it and off you go. On that note, your fridge will only last for a few hours when the power goes out. A freezer, like a chest freezer, a few days. So you make sure you use up that food first before anything else. Number 3, consider a generator. People have gone thousands of years without electricity. It's only in our modern times. And with this, your fridge and freezer are the biggest things we do worry about or concerned about. Having lights and stuff, we can get by without that. But of course, your fridge, only a few hours, a freezer, only a couple days. Having a generator, like for example, a gas or propane generator to keep your fridge and freezer going, we see literally a lower expectancy in life in countries they don't have refrigerators, freezers. So for you, let's not even talk about the wasted food. Having a generator to run those, it's worth its weight in gold. Now, of course, you only have so much propane, only so much gas if we're talking about long term, but that's something else we can look at. But some of these, often these are large enough to power your entire home. But at the very least, it can power your fridge for you. Now, something else you also could consider is a solar generator, which I've talked about videos about this. Don't think they're like perfectly lap of luxury. They are not. Solar generators, for our house, we actually run 240 volts for our well. We can power our entire home for about 2 hours with some huge solar generators if we're running water and such. If I want to run my freezer, I can pretty much do it indefinitely with these, but they're not putting you in the lap of luxury. This is like for long-term crap hits the fan situations. Number 4, clothing is key. In reality, layers are key. The more layers you have, the warmer you are. It's very nice, and you can shed them off if you start getting warm. However, I caution you, be careful about putting the inner layer, cotton. In backpacking, we used to say cotton kills. It's comfy. Oh, it's so nice on the body, isn't it? But what happens with the cotton, it absorbs water. So as you're hiking, walking, chopping wood, doing whatever you need to in your house during the power outage, you're going to sweat. That cotton's going to absorb it, and you're going to become wringing wet. And then at night when the temperature drops, that could be really bad. That could be fatal. So make sure your inner layer, Merino wool is the best, by the way. I mean, wool's good, kind of itchy, but merino wool's, that's just like fantastic stuff. Makes a layer between you and any type of moisture that is absorbed by that cotton. But again, layers are the best, and an outer shell layer is always good. That way, if there is rain or snow coming down, you're not going to get absorbed in your clothes either. Also, wear a hat. They're so stylish anyway. And people used to think that you lose like 40-50% of your heat through your head, and that's not true, but it actually kind of is. Your head, as far as skin area, loses just as much heat as the rest of your body, but the rest of my body's covered. And if you go outside without your head covered, you will lose heat faster. So having a hat, that's definitely a good thing to have. Keep it with you, especially during any type of snowy stuff to keep it off your head. Number 5, get a heat source. Now, I already mentioned having a wood stove or fireplace is the best thing, but there's other things you can do too, like a buddy heater or a kerosene heater. If you're not familiar with these, again, I'll link it below. A buddy heater runs on propane. That's great. Kerosene heater runs on kerosene. We have both, but honestly, we use our kerosene heater much more than the other ones, and we've used it for 20-some years. My wife and I always had one in our living room just to kind of take the edge off to keep it nice and warm. But of course, same thing, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector, battery powered, and a fire extinguisher, and of course, enough propane and kerosene to keep you going. There are other options to keep warm too, like for example, I have an EcoFlow Wave 2. It's a battery powered, connected to my solar generator heater, but it's not going to last forever either. Just like solar generators for your freezer, it's only going to last so long. So doing other things like solar panels to keep it going will help, but it may not be enough. Something you can do that will work, however, is get a small tent, like a Coleman tent, and put it in your living room and camp out in that Coleman tent with your family. Or if it's just you and your hubby or wife, put it on your bed and just sleep in the tent on your bed. It'll help you stay warm. It'll retain that body heat, but it'll also retain that body moisture. As you breathe out, you're putting out moisture, and that moisture will accumulate there. It will get kind of wet in the morning. Just keep that in mind. So make sure you air it out during the day, so that way when you sleep again at night, it's not completely soaked inside there. Number 6, we have to have light. And so many prepping channels always say, candles, have candles, have candles. And we do. We have a lot of candles. I pick them up at yard sales for next to nothing. But do you know right now, without people even using candles as a light source, there are 10,000 homes a year that catch on fire from candles. What's it going to be like when crap hits the fan? You have to be careful because it is an open flame, and open flames like to burn down homes. Could you imagine that happening during the crap hits the fan? That'd be a horrible thing. Now, kerosene lanterns, or simply just like the little lanterns, are better. They're far better, by the way. And it doesn't have to use like kerosene, but some kind of lamp oil. You still have to watch those. Fires still happen from those too, from people knocking them over. But having those is great. And honestly, I love the ambiance in those. How about you? I like having the nice kerosene or the the lamp oil, making it so it lights up my home. Your best bet, of course, are lanterns, flashlights, headlamps. And we keep lots of those. We have ones that are battery powered, and we have a lot of rechargeable, because that way we can recharge the rechargeable ones with our solar generator. But having all kinds of different ones, a wide variety is a good thing. Like for our kids, I mentioned this many times, we have these little squeeze lights, which are amazing. They work very well, and it's very easy for the kids to squeeze it. And of course, they're not going to leave their flashlight on the floor and kill the batteries, which they love to do. They still might, but you can squeeze it. Or you can get the crank ones. The crank ones are good too. Also has a solar panel. We'll take these and put them in the windowsill during the day, so that way they recharge. So having rechargeable stuff is really good. And again, I'll link all these below if you want to pick some up. Number 7, communication. If you're looking at a power outage for a few days, it may not be such a worry. As it goes on, though, yeah, it may actually be more essential. But at the very least, having a crank radio. I have a green one. I'm looking for it. I couldn't find it. It's fantastic. We use it all the time. Probably one of my kids took it because they love turning on the radio and just leaving it somewhere in the house. But these are great. Apparently, I have a cat visiting me. But they're fantastic for the fact that you can crank them. It's kind of a drag to crank them all the time, but at least it's providing power for it. Your solar generator can charge this up too. But listening to news, listening to the weather forecast, know if there's going to be more snow coming in, that's a huge thing. And having the ability to keep that up is good. Now, if we are talking more long term, you want to be able to communicate with people, having walkie-talkies, having ham radios. I always link up some Baofeng ham radios. They're great. And that way, if you have family that's somewhat nearby, you'll be able to keep in contact with them and be able to make sure each other is okay. Number 8, entertainment. This is a real short one. Simply put, inside the house, no power, no lights, you're going to go bonkers, especially having kiddos running around. So having entertainment for them, crayons, coloring books, activities, games, but for you too. It's nice to have a nice warm cup of coffee and playing some cards to be able to pass the time while you're waiting for the power to come on. But either way, you have to have some kind of morale to keep you up and keep you going, so have entertainment. And number 9, take care of the weather. You have to take care of the weather itself. I mean, snow piling up on certain roofs may be a problem, so have just the typical things you need to deal with: snow, rain, whatever. Snow shovels, some salt, a snowblower, handheld snowblowers, they're great. Tarps in case you get a hole in your roof, etc. But have whatever you need to be able to take care of it long before winter, because if you wait until winter's coming, not only will they fly off the shelves, but of course price gouging sometimes occurs too. So there's 9 things for you. I'm going to link them all below. We're Amazon affiliates. If you do pick them up, we appreciate it. And I'm sure Blue, the kitty here, appreciates that too. But if there's something I missed, by all means, put it in the comments below. We all want to share this information together and be ready for a winter, because it very well may be a rough one. Thanks for watching, everybody.